In a small town in England, nestled among rolling hills and fields of golden wheat, the air was thick with the scent of impending rain. It was the summer of 1943, and the world outside Eleanor's classroom was fraught with uncertainty. The war had cast a long shadow over her quaint village, where children's laughter mingled with the distant echoes of sirens and the rumble of military vehicles. Eleanor, a compassionate schoolteacher in her late 20s, had dedicated herself to nurturing the minds of her young students, instilling in them a sense of hope amidst the chaos that enveloped their lives. Each morning, she donned a simple yet elegant dress, the fabric worn and faded but stitched with care. Her hair was pulled back into a neat bun, a practical choice that allowed her to focus on the children rather than her appearance. Eleanor's heart was heavy with the weight of the war. She often found herself lost in thought, contemplating the fate of her loved ones and the world around her. Despite the rationing and the constant worry, she maintained a brave facade, determined to provide a sense of normalcy for her students. The classroom was a sanctuary, filled with the vibrant colors of chalk drawings on the blackboard and the cheerful chatter of children eager to learn. Eleanor often encouraged her students to express themselves through art and storytelling, believing that creativity was a powerful antidote to the harsh realities of their lives. Yet, even as she imparted knowledge, her own heart ached with longing and unspoken fears. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow through the classroom windows, Eleanor received a letter that would change everything. It was from Thomas, her childhood friend, and the boy who had once stolen her heart. He had been deployed to Europe, and his words, filled with hope and longing, rekindled memories of their shared laughter and innocent dreams. She could almost hear his voice as she read his letter, each line a reminder of the bond they had forged in their youth. "Dear Eleanor," it began, the familiar scrawl of his handwriting bringing a smile to her face. "I hope this letter finds you well. It's hard to believe how much time has passed since we last saw each other. I think of you often, especially during the quiet moments when the sounds of war fade into the background. Your laughter has always been a light in my life, and I hold on to that light as I navigate through the darkness here." As Eleanor read on, her heart swelled with a mixture of joy and sorrow. Thomas spoke of the camaraderie among the soldiers, the bonds forged in the face of adversity, yet there was an underlying current of fear in his words. He described the landscapes he had encountered, the beauty of the countryside juxtaposed with the devastation wrought by war. Each sentence painted a vivid picture in her mind, transporting her to the fields of France, where poppies bloomed amidst the rubble. Before we start, I'd love to ask for your support. Subscribing helps me keep creating and sharing these stories with you. Eleanor's thoughts drifted back to their last meeting, a bittersweet farewell that lingered in her memory like the scent of blooming roses. It was a crisp autumn day when they had stood beneath the old oak tree in the park, the leaves swirling around them in a dance of gold and crimson. Thomas had taken her hands in his touch warm and reassuring. "Promise me, you'll take care of yourself, Ellie," he had said, his eyes searching hers for a hint of reassurance. "I promise," she had replied, her voice barely above a whisper. But deep down, she had known that the promise was as fragile as the leaves falling around them. They had shared a moment then, a fleeting glimpse of the love that had always lingered just beneath the surface. Yet neither had dared to voice it, fearing that the reality of war would shatter the fragile bond they had built. As Eleanor continued to read Thomas's letter, she felt a rush of emotions, nostalgia, longing, and an undeniable sense of urgency. She recalled the dreams they had shared, the plans they had made for a future that now felt so distant. In that moment, she resolved to write back, to pour her heart onto the pages and bridge the gap that war had created between them. That evening, with the faint glow of a single candle illuminating her small desk, Eleanor took out her stationery. She hesitated, the weight of her emotions pressing down on her chest. What could she say that would adequately convey the depth of her feelings? She dipped her pen into the ink, her hand trembling slightly as she began to write. "Dear Thomas," she wrote, her heart racing. "Your letter brought tears to my eyes. It feels as though no time has passed since we were children, laughing and dreaming together. I think of you often, and I pray for your safety every day. The world here is changing, but I hold on to the hope that we will see each other again." As the words flowed from her pen, Eleanor felt a sense of liberation. She spoke of the children in her class, their resilience in the face of adversity, and how they often asked about the soldiers fighting for their freedom. She shared stories of the community coming together to support the war effort, the rationing of food, and the small acts of kindness that had become a lifeline for many. Yet, amidst the mundane details of her life, she found herself revealing the depths of her heart. "I miss you, Thomas," she wrote, her pen gliding across the page. "I miss our conversations, your laughter, and the way you always knew how to make me smile. I wish I could be there with you, to support you in any way I can." As she sealed the letter, Eleanor felt a flicker of hope ignite within her. This was more than just a correspondence. It was a lifeline, a connection to the man who had always held a special place in her heart. She knew that with each letter, they would weave a tapestry of shared experiences, dreams, and fears that would sustain them both through the trials of war. Days turned into weeks, and Eleanor found solace in the rhythm of their correspondence. Each letter from Thomas was a balm for her soul, a reminder that love could thrive even in the darkest of times. His words painted vivid images of life on the front lines, the camaraderie among soldiers, and the resilience of the human spirit. "Dear Ellie," he wrote in one letter, "I want you to know that your letters are my refuge. They remind me of home, of laughter, and of the life waiting for me when this is all over. I often find myself daydreaming about our childhood, the games we played, and the dreams we shared. I hold on to those memories like a lifeline." Eleanor cherished every word, each letter a testament to their enduring connection. She found herself growing stronger, emboldened by Thomas's unwavering spirit. Yet, as the weeks passed, the tone of his letters began to shift. The once frequent correspondence became sporadic, and Eleanor's heart sank with each passing day that she did not hear from him. In the quiet moments, she would sit by the window, gazing out at the horizon, her mind filled with worry. What dangers was he facing? Was he safe? The uncertainty gnawed at her, but she clung to the hope that their love would prevail, that they would find their way back to each other. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow across the fields, Eleanor received news that would shatter her heart. A letter from the military arrived, its official seal stark against the pale envelope. With trembling hands she opened it, her breath catching in her throat. The words blurred before her eyes as she read of the recent battles, the losses, and the injuries sustained by soldiers in the field. Her heart raced as she searched for Thomas's name, praying for a sign that he was safe. But the absence of his name felt like a weight pressing down on her chest. Panic surged within her, and she sank to the floor, the letter slipping from her fingers as tears streamed down her cheeks. The world outside faded into a blur, the sounds of children playing replaced by the deafening silence of her heart. Days turned into an agonizing week, each hour stretching into eternity as Eleanor awaited news of Thomas. She found herself wandering through the village, her thoughts consumed by worry. The familiar streets felt foreign, the laughter of children ringing hollow in her ears. The war had stolen so much, and she could feel its grip tightening around her. And then, on a rainy afternoon, as she sat by the window with a cup of tea, a familiar figure appeared on the horizon. Eleanor squinted through the raindrops, her heart racing as she recognized the silhouette. Thomas! He was home! But as he drew closer, she noticed the weariness etched on his face, the shadows beneath his eyes. When he finally reached her doorstep, she opened the door, her breath catching in her throat. Thomas stood before her, a soldier in uniform, yet he looked so much older, burdened by the weight of his experiences. Their eyes locked, and in that moment the world around them fell away. "Eleanor," he breathed, his voice hoarse yet filled with warmth. "I'm home." Tears streamed down her cheeks as she stepped forward, wrapping her arms around him. The embrace was electric, a surge of emotions flooding through her. She could feel the tension in his body, the unspoken fears and pain that lay beneath the surface. "I was so worried about you," she whispered, her voice trembling. "I know," he replied softly, pulling back to look into her eyes. "I'm sorry for the silence. Things have been difficult." Eleanor nodded, her heart aching for him. They stood in the doorway, the rain falling around them like a protective barrier, shielding them from the chaos of the world. "Come inside," she urged, her voice filled with urgency. "You need to rest." As they settled into the warmth of her home, the familiar scent of baked bread and fresh flowers enveloped them. Eleanor prepared tea, her hands shaking slightly as she poured the steaming liquid into 2 delicate cups. Thomas sat at the kitchen table, his gaze distant as he stared out the window, lost in thought. "Tell me everything," she urged, her heart aching to understand the man who had returned to her. He took a deep breath, his fingers tracing the rim of the cup. "It's hard to put into words. The things I've seen, the things we've lost. It changes you, Ellie. I don't know if I'll ever be the same." Eleanor nodded, her heart heavy with empathy. "You don't have to go through this alone. I'm here for you, Thomas. We can face this together." As they spoke, the distance between them began to close. They shared stories of their time apart, laughter mingling with tears as they navigated the complexities of their emotions. Eleanor could see the flicker of hope in Thomas's eyes, a reminder that love could endure even in the darkest times. Yet, as the evening wore on, the weight of unspoken truths hung in the air. Eleanor knew that they had both changed, shaped by the war in ways they could not yet comprehend. The love they had once shared felt both familiar and foreign, a delicate thread connecting them even as the world around them shifted. As the rain continued to fall, Eleanor took a deep breath, her heart racing, as she prepared to voice the feelings that had remained buried for far too long. "Thomas," she began, her voice steady yet filled with emotion, "I've missed you more than words can express. I never stopped thinking about you, about us." His gaze met hers, and in that moment, the weight of their shared experiences hung between them. "I've missed you too, Ellie," he replied, his voice low and sincere. "You've always been my anchor." In the quiet of her kitchen, surrounded by the remnants of a world torn apart, Eleanor and Thomas found solace in each other. Their love, forged in the fires of their childhood, had survived the trials of war, and, as they faced the uncertain future together, they knew that hope would guide them through the darkness. As the night deepened, they shared their dreams, their fears, and the unbreakable bond that had withstood the test of time. In that moment, amidst the chaos of the world, they found a flicker of hope, a promise that love could endure even in the darkest of times. And as they held each other close, the storm outside faded into the background, leaving only the warmth of their connection, a beacon of light in the midst of uncertainty. As the days turned into weeks, Eleanor and Thomas settled into a rhythm that felt both comforting and precarious. The war continued its relentless march, but within the confines of Eleanor's kitchen, they found a sanctuary. Each evening, they would sit together, sharing stories and laughter, while the world outside remained a cacophony of uncertainty and fear. Eleanor's letters to Thomas had become a lifeline, each word carefully chosen, each sentiment a thread woven into the tapestry of their relationship. She poured her heart onto the pages, recounting the little moments of her life, how the children in her class were adjusting to the war, the rationing of food and supplies, and the small victories of community spirit that emerged amidst the chaos. She wrote about the vibrant garden she tended, a burst of color in the grayness of their reality, and how she often imagined Thomas walking through it, hand in hand with her. In one letter she wrote, "I planted tulips today. Their bright colors remind me of the laughter we shared as children. I wish you could see them, Thomas. They are a reminder that even in the darkest times, beauty can still bloom." As she sealed the envelope, she felt a sense of hope swell within her, a hope that their love could transcend the war, that it could blossom anew just as her flowers did. Thomas, in turn, sent letters that were filled with vivid descriptions of his experiences. His words painted pictures of camaraderie among soldiers, the bond forged in the fires of adversity, and the moments of levity that punctuated the grim realities of war. He shared tales of his comrades, their laughter echoing through the barracks, and the small comforts they found in shared meals and stories from home. Yet, beneath the surface of his cheerful anecdotes, Eleanor could sense the weight of his burden. In one letter, he confessed, "Every day is a battle, Ellie, but it's the thought of you that keeps me going. I carry your letters with me, and they remind me of the life waiting for me back home. I think of your smile, the way your eyes light up when you talk about your students. It gives me strength." Eleanor cherished these words. But as the weeks passed, she noticed a shift in Thomas's letters. The frequency of his correspondence began to dwindle, and the cheerful tone that once filled his words was replaced by a somber reality. Each letter she received felt like a precious gift, a reminder that he was still alive, yet each one also carried an undercurrent of fear. She could sense the toll the war was taking on him, and her heart ached with the knowledge that she could do nothing to ease his pain. One evening, as Eleanor sat at her kitchen table, a letter from Thomas lay open before her. This time, his words were stark and raw. "There are days when I don't know how much longer I can endure this," he wrote. "I've seen too much, lost too many. The weight of it all is suffocating. I need you, Ellie. I need to know that you're still there, that you still believe in us." Tears blurred her vision as she read his words. She could feel the desperation in his plea, the longing for connection amidst the chaos. With trembling hands, she began to write back, pouring her heart into the letter. "I believe in us, Thomas," she wrote fervently. "You are my light in this darkness. I will always be here, waiting for you, loving you from afar." The days turned into a blur of worry and anticipation. The war continued to rage, and Eleanor found herself increasingly anxious about Thomas's safety. She often gazed out of her window, imagining him somewhere far away, facing unimaginable horrors. The uncertainty gnawed at her, filling her with a sense of helplessness. Yet she clung to the hope that their love would endure, that it would be the beacon guiding them through the storm. As the weeks turned into months, Eleanor's routine began to shift. She became more involved in the war effort, volunteering at the local hospital and helping organize community fundraisers. The need for support was palpable, and she found solace in the camaraderie of other women who were also grappling with the absence of their loved ones. They shared stories of their soldiers, their hopes, and their fears, creating a bond that transcended the struggles of the war. One evening, while volunteering at the hospital, Eleanor encountered a young nurse named Margaret. They quickly struck up a friendship, bonding over their shared experiences and the weight of their worries. Margaret was a fierce woman, her spirit unyielding despite the horrors she witnessed daily. "We have to keep fighting, Eleanor," she said one night as they sorted through supplies. "For them, for all of us." Eleanor admired Margaret's strength, and as they worked side by side, she found herself inspired to channel her energy into something meaningful. Together, they organized a fundraiser to support the local hospital, bringing the community together in a show of solidarity. The event was a resounding success, and as Eleanor looked out at the smiling faces of her neighbors, she felt a surge of pride. They were all in this together, fighting their own battles while waiting for their loved ones to return. But even amidst the laughter and camaraderie, Eleanor's heart remained heavy with worry for Thomas. Each day she would check the mailbox, her heart racing with the hope of receiving a letter. Yet days turned into weeks without a word from him. The silence was deafening, and each passing moment felt like an eternity. She found herself staring at the letters they had exchanged, rereading them in search of comfort, clinging to the memories of their shared laughter and dreams. Then, one fateful day, as she opened the mailbox, she found a letter. Her heart soared, but as she opened the paper, a sense of dread washed over her. The handwriting was shaky, the words filled with urgency. "Ellie," it began, "I don't know how to say this, but I've been injured. I'm in a hospital in France, and I need you to know that I'm fighting to get back to you." Panic surged through her as she read the words over and over again, each one a painful reminder of the fragility of life. She could hardly breathe, her heart pounding in her chest. "Injured," she whispered to herself, the word echoing in her mind. She felt the ground shift beneath her, the weight of uncertainty crashing down like a tidal wave. Eleanor's mind raced with questions. What had happened? How serious were his injuries? Would he be okay? She knew she had to act quickly. Without a second thought, she gathered her things and rushed to the local hospital, her heart pounding with determination. When she arrived, the atmosphere was charged with tension. The nurses moved swiftly, their faces etched with concern as they tended to the wounded. Eleanor approached the front desk, her voice trembling as she asked for information about Thomas. The nurse looked up, her expression softening as she recognized the urgency in Eleanor's eyes. "Are you his fiancé?" the nurse asked gently. Eleanor shook her head, her voice barely above a whisper. "No, but I love him. I need to see him." The nurse nodded, understanding the depth of Eleanor's feelings. "He's in a private room. Follow me," she said, leading Eleanor through the bustling corridors. As Eleanor entered the room, her heart sank at the sight before her. Thomas lay in the hospital bed, his face pale and bruised, bandages wrapped around his arm. The sight of him, so vulnerable and in pain, tore through her like a knife. She rushed to his side, her heart aching as she took in the reality of his injuries. "Thomas," she breathed, tears streaming down her cheeks as she grasped his hand. I'm here. His eyes fluttered open, and a weak smile broke through the pain etched on his face. "Ellie," he whispered, his voice hoarse. "You came." "Of course I came," she replied, her voice breaking with emotion. "I was so scared. I didn't know what happened." He squeezed her hand gently, the warmth of his touch igniting a flicker of hope within her. "It's not as bad as it looks," he reassured her, though the tremor in his voice betrayed the truth. "Just a few injuries. I'll heal." Eleanor shook her head, unable to hold back her tears. "You don't have to pretend for me, Thomas. I know this is hard. I can't bear to see you like this." He reached up with his uninjured hand, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "You being here makes it easier. You're my light, Ellie. You always have been." In that moment, surrounded by the sterile scent of antiseptic and the distant sounds of the hospital, Eleanor realized the depth of their connection. They were bound not just by love, but by shared pain, resilience, and hope. She knew that they would face whatever came next together. Days turned into a blur as Eleanor stayed by Thomas's side, her heart swelling with love and admiration for the man who had fought so bravely. She watched as he slowly regained his strength, each small victory a testament to his spirit. They spent hours talking, sharing their dreams for the future, and reminiscing about their childhood. The laughter they shared became a balm for their wounds, a reminder that even in the darkest moments, joy could still be found. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow in the room, Thomas turned to Eleanor, his eyes filled with determination. "When I get out of here, I want to build a life with you. I want to create a future where we can be free from all of this." Eleanor felt her heart soar at his words, but a flicker of fear crept in. What if the war doesn't end? What if we are still fighting? "Then we fight together," he replied, his voice steady. "But I refuse to let this war define us. I want to love you fiercely. to create a life filled with laughter and hope, no matter what challenges we face. Tears of joy streamed down Eleanor's cheeks as she nodded, overwhelmed by the depth of his conviction. "I want that too, Thomas, more than anything." As the days passed, Thomas's condition improved, and the day finally came when he was discharged from the hospital. Eleanor felt a surge of joy and relief as they walked out together, hand in hand. The world outside was still shrouded in uncertainty, but in that moment, they were free. They returned to Eleanor's small town, where the war continued to loom over their lives. Yet, as they walked through the familiar streets, Eleanor felt a sense of renewal. They were together, and their love had been forged in the fires of adversity. They would face whatever came next, side by side. In the weeks that followed, they settled into a new routine, one that blended the challenges of the war with the joys of their rekindled love. Eleanor continued her work as a schoolteacher, while Thomas found ways to contribute to the war effort, volunteering with local organizations. Together, they became a symbol of hope for their community, inspiring others to keep fighting for a brighter future. One evening, as they sat together in the garden, Eleanor turned to Thomas, her heart full of gratitude. "I never thought I could feel this way again, especially after everything we've been through." Thomas smiled, his eyes shining with warmth. "Love has a way of healing, doesn't it? It's what keeps us going, even in the darkest times." Eleanor nodded, her heart swelling with emotion. "I believe that. I believe in us." As they held each other close, the world around them faded away, leaving only the warmth of their connection. They had faced the storm together, and now, as the sun set in a blaze of orange and pink, they looked towards the future with hope in their hearts. The war would continue to rage on, but Eleanor and Thomas had discovered something profound amidst the chaos. They had found a love that could endure, a love that would guide them through the darkest nights and into the light of a new dawn. And as they stood together, hand in hand, they knew that whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, united by the unbreakable bond of their love.